This is what the evenings are like in South Texas. Just a little bit of light breeze, about 70 degrees. And as dusk is falling, you can see the moon and the palm trees swaying, and you can sit outside in your lawn chair. Hi, I'm Bonita and I am early retired. I'm not old enough yet for Social Security. I'm living on a low income and I am living off of savings. And right now I'm spending the winter in my RV in the Rio Grande Valley in South Texas. I normally live in Kansas. I have frugal videos all year round, and I hope that you will join me this year in 2025 as we share ways to save money and live our dreams. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the channel. Today, since it is now morning and still cool, we're going to do a little bit of food prep for the week. I found this ground pork at HEB for $3.49 a pound. I'm going to use half of it and freeze the other half. And then in this bowl, I have half of a small cabbage cut up, about a third of a white onion cut up, and a large carrot shredded. And then I have my liquid aminos that are gluten-free and taste like soy sauce. And I also have my garlic powder from Mexico. Outside the camper, I have my little electric skillet, and I'm going to spray the electric skillet and brown that half a pound of ground pork. Once my ground pork has been browned, I'm going to add in the vegetables, and this is going to be really, really full because it will cook down and shrink quite a bit. And then I am going to leave that grease in there to flavor the cabbage. Some ground pork has a bunch of grease and some doesn't, but I think you'll find it has a lot less than hamburger. I turned it down just a little bit so it could steam because I don't want to get it too brown or burn the pork. I'm adding a tablespoon of garlic powder, and then I'm going to give this a good stir every so often so that it is cooked evenly. This recipe makes about 3 2-cup servings, and I costed it out on what I paid for everything, and it cost me about 89 cents a serving. Once everything is tender and cooked down the way I want it, then I'm going to add my liquid aminos to taste. I feel like this stuff is less salty than soy sauce. Plus, we are gluten free for the most part. My husband is 100% gluten free. And once you switch to this, you just realize how salty the soy sauce is. And this is so delicious. I have 2 servings that I'm going to put in the fridge, and I think I'm going to eat one for brunch. My frugal videos are to try to inspire people to come up with creative ways to save money in their own households. Over the last few years, trends have shown that people have been cutting back in a lot of areas on their spending. The New York Post states that Hawaii and Alaska, California, Nevada, Mississippi, Washington, and Florida are the highest places to buy your groceries right now. Starbucks was down 7% in the last quarter of 2024, and consumers have slashed discretionary spending. I know for us, we've changed the way we spend money, especially as inflation has increased. There's lots of businesses that have filed bankruptcy in 2024, including Big Lots, Party City, Tupperware, Vitamin Shop, Joann's Fabrics, TGIF Fridays, True Value, Rue 21, and Red Lobster. Some of those are no longer in business now. And I never thought I would see the day that places like Joann's Fabrics would be having problems, but everything is going up. Google and Amazon even laid off a significant amount of workers in 2024. U.S. households have largely used up savings, and savings rates are at historic lows, and workers are getting smaller, raises. Consumers are stating that price hikes and their ability to buy things as their economic reasons behind buying less. And I know in a lot of homes, we are buying less. Now, that doesn't mean we're doing without, we're just buying less. So, I want to give you some of the examples of the things that we no longer buy that used to be like staples in our homes and things that we would buy routinely when we went to the grocery store. One of the big ones I thought about is frozen potatoes. I no longer buy tater tots, french fries, shredded potatoes, nothing like that. I just buy the real thing. And if we want french fries, I make like potato wedges. So we no longer buy those frozen potatoes. They cost over $2 a bag, usually 3, and I can buy potatoes for almost that if I really watch my sales. So I just don't buy those anymore. I don't feel like they're a good way to spend my money. I no longer buy tons of spice packets. I make most of my spices from home, including onion soup mix, taco seasoning, chili seasoning, ranch seasoning. I make a sausage seasoning. I just make tons of seasonings in jars, and my husband uses those and knows to use those. Now, some of that switch was because he was gluten free, but some of it was just because the spice packets had gotten ridiculously high. And when I researched how to make some of them, they were spices I already had on hand. I no longer buy things like Texas toast. Again, you get like 8 slices for more than $2. Well, I can get double that in a loaf of bread. So I no longer buy frozen Texas toast. I don't buy frozen dinners. We primarily would buy like frozen pot pies, but the last one I bought had gravy and a crust and like nothing in it. And I decided then, no, I'm not even buying these for once in a while when I don't feel like cooking. I'm just making them from scratch. I no longer buy cream of anything soups. I make that from scratch. I no longer buy rice-a-roni. I make that from scratch. I make all my gravy mixes from scratch. And I don't buy individually packaged foods. Hardly ever, very rarely. And then they have to be a really good sale for me to do anything like that. I haven't purchased any type of broth in probably 3 years, but I do still occasionally buy like the base or the granules or the powder to supplement my homemade broth just in case I need some. I don't purchase foil or plastic wrap. The stuff that I'm using, I have had for more than 3 years. I will just put like a saucer on top of a bowl if I don't have a lid, or I'll put a cookie sheet on top of a cake in a 9 by 13 pan to keep it from drying out. I just don't use those except for maybe around the holidays I will use those, but that's the only time. I've never bought things like Bisquick. That's something I've never purchased. I've never been a Bisquick fan. I always felt like everything you made with Bisquick tasted like Bisquick. So I make all of my own baking from scratch. And if I need something that would require like a Bisquick, I just make all of the ingredients from scratch. And so that's some of the things that we don't purchase that have changed over the years. So let me know if you've changed any of your purchasing habits because of inflation. Maybe if you sit down and think about it, you will realize that you have also trended that way at cutting back on some of those packaged foods and trending more towards making them from scratch, because over the last few years, we have all shared information and shown each other how easy some of this stuff is and how we have it on hand to try to help each other through inflation. I know our kitchen and our pantry looks different than it used to when my kids were home. I know that I have trended to making sure that I buy some things frozen that I always bought fresh before. I will tend to buy some frozen fruits now when I never bought frozen fruits before, just to make sure that they last longer. And a lot of times, those frozen fruits even cost less than the fresh. If you check the poundage and how much they cost, I've been able to get strawberries and blueberries cheaper in the frozen section than in the fresh section. I've also trended to buying a lot more things that are cheaper that are vegetables, like carrots. We put carrots in everything because carrots are so cheap. We have trended to some of those lesser expensive produce items, and then I make sure that anything we don't use gets frozen right away so that I don't have that produce waste like I had back when my kids were still living at home. I remember throwing things out then, and I didn't think that much about it because we lived on a farm and the animals that we had, the barnyard animals, would always eat it. So I never felt like anything was wasted. But we have less barnyard animals now, and I make sure that our people food goes in the freezer. Now that I've been sharing with you how some of my purchasing habits have been trending differently, I'm curious about you. Have you thought of anything that you have started doing differently that you didn't realize until maybe I was talking about this and you're like, hey, I don't buy that anymore either, or I don't buy this anymore? I would be curious if you would share those in the comments below. I am so happy that you spent time with me today. I know how valuable your time is. I hope this video has brought you value, and if so, could you please give me a thumbs up or make a comment below? That would be so helpful. I hope to see you in the next video.